My biggest thing is figuring out who you are and who you want to be and finding the right fit for yourself. Not because somebody thinks it's best for you and not because somebody thinks this is where you need to be.
Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a free resource for women who work in the sports and entertainment industry. Each week, we get real and talk about the things that hold us back and how we can overcome them and keep climbing to the top. And the top is however you define it. We talk about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Consider this podcast your secret weapon. You will learn from the best in the business and be able to take immediate action with all of the advice that you hear. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake, a leadership development coach and consultant. I've worked in sports for 20 years. 15 of those years were spent working for the Red Sox, Dodgers, and the Cubs. After 15 years of working in the front office, I took a leap of faith and I started my own business. Friends, as a Black woman in sports, I know that the industry can take a toll on your confidence and sometimes leave you feeling defeated. Join me each week so I can support you on your journey. I promise you, each week you will feel stronger and more confident than the week before. So let's get started with this week's episode. Today, you get to hear from a guest navigating the world of sports with a unique blend of grace and grit. Lauren Hall, the program director at the Rose Bowl Institute, is here to share her incredible journey with us. From dealing with the uncertainties of life to making tough decisions about career and family, Lauren has seen it all. She's a testament to the power of mentorship, the importance of relationship building, and the magic of transparency in leadership roles. She's also got some invaluable insights on tackling worries and embracing change, lessons we all could do well to learn from. All right, Game of Her Own listeners, let's do this. Lauren, welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast. I am so happy you're here.
I'm so happy I'm here too. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, so before we get into your career, take us back in time and tell us when you first fell in love with sports.
Well, being from Boston, I was kind of born into it. You have no choice. But I've always grown up with sports and family, and it's life. So I've just loved it, and I knew I always wanted to do something connected to sports in some way.
So you are a Yankees fan. I'm kidding.
That's not nice. That's the way it's going to be today.
Yes, someone who, I'm obviously kidding everybody. I know it's the Red Sox and the Patriots and the Celtics. Can't forget them. But yeah, being in Boston I was in Boston for like 10 years. Yeah, it was something I was, when I first moved there, before I even started working in sports, I was like, wait, this is something different. It's
its own world. You get there, right? It's very different than West Coast. You get there before like warm-ups at like Red Sox games. Like you get there to watch the bullpen and see what you're in store for. And you don't leave until that last pitch. Like leaving early is like sacrilegious.
Do you miss that now that you live on the West Coast, having your family and that, passion? I mean, I guess you don't lose your passion for your teams, but, being around people who share that same passion.
Fortunately, I married somebody who's obsessed with football, or unfortunately. No, I take that one back. I take that back. So fortunately, I married somebody who is obsessed with football, and he is sadly a Miami Dolphins fan. So that's as bad as Yankees, Red Sox in the football world. But when we were dating, we were going on Sundays to watch football together from day one. And so it was who I am, and to find somebody who connected with me, it kind of filled that void.
Okay. Yeah. Now tell everybody what you do now and who you do it for.
So I am the programs director for the Rose Bowl Institute under the Rose Bowl Foundation, connected to the Rose Bowl Stadium here in Pasadena.
All right. What does that look like, that job?
Well, it's fantastic. I love it. Every aspect of it. I've been fortunate enough to be at the stadium since 2010 in one way or another, and have been able to watch it grow from what you wouldn't imagine to be like a very small, just operating group that was very operational from a stadium perspective. And I had the great opportunity to be part of the building and growth of the stadium's foundation. So the stadium was in need of its own foundation, 501(c), which brought forth the Rose Bowl Legacy Foundation. in 2010 because the stadium is owned by the city and needs additional funds for all of the extras to stay relevant and innovative in today's world where you see in LA, you see all of these stadiums popping up left and right. You've got two of every team. You've got such an incredible saturated market, which is good and bad. It's so competitive, but there's never a lack of something going on. And it's great. But from a stadium perspective, in order to become 100 years old, which the stadium just turned this past year, something had to be done. So extra funds had to be raised, and that brought forth the Rose Bowl Legacy Foundation. And it was just proven to be a huge success for the stadium. Time went on, and about 3 years ago, there was a need for educational program, a give back to community more than anything, where the stadium has always done that. They've always done things to open their doors to their local community. It's the heartbeat of Pasadena, really, if you've ever been down there. But this need to grow this educational, this community give back platform utilizing the iconic Rose Bowl name, which then brought forth the Rose Bowl Institute. And I've been so fortunate to be part of that launch and then be able to work hand in hand with the foundation and our president, Charlie Firestone, on building out programs that answer the need. For us, COVID was great. It's silly to say. We launched in 2020 and we never had to pivot. We never had to scramble to figure out how to change things around. We launched, which we had always planned to do, in 2020, and it allowed us to start fresh and provide engaging content that the world was wanting and needing at that time. So we were able to create programs that were based on the needs and the trends. But we created a program that was specific to COVID in the collegiate sports space. So we were able to utilize conference presidents. We were able to use ADs and other individuals to create that virtual program that helped answer a lot of the questions that everybody was having when it came to collegiate sports and what was going on behind those closed doors. We were able to provide a whole programming on race and sports and understanding that based on the legacy of Jackie Robinson was our first one. And Jackie Robinson, home Pasadena, played at the Rose Bowl. There's a statue of Jackie Robinson in a football uniform, which is quite rare to see, in front of the Rose Bowl marquee. So it was just being able to create those programs. And then the largest program that we host and we have is the Women's Empowerment Program, which is near and dear to me. And we were able to create that around a statue, again, more statues, where that's where the foundation comes in to honor the historic past while preserving its future of a stadium, and how the Institute comes in and create that programming that supports that history to remind people. So there was a statue that was erected to honor the Women's World Cup 99ers with Brandi Chastain, the famous one where she rips off her shirt midfield. We honored that moment, not only with a statue, but with a women's empowerment program that supported that, and was first year was 99 students that had a huge conference and the ability to be empowered and inspired. And now this year, we're going to have our 5th annual virtual 3-day program on women's empowerment with incredible speakers from all walks of life, from female coaches, female entrepreneurs. We have someone in the armed forces this year as one of our keynote speakers. In the past, we've had Madeleine Albright. We've had Tara Campbell, who is the youngest mayor in California history at age 25, and has done great things to show that civic literacy and leadership, you don't have to be older. You can do it now. And so that's the part of the inspiration, the empowerment. Love being part of this.
Yeah, you speak so passionately about it. And so you're really building community through sport, not to simplify it within one sentence, but is that fair to say?
It is. So the whole mission of the Institute is to champion sportsmanship values to create civic literacy. So it pulls from the Nelson Mandela quote where sports unite people everywhere. It is that. That's what the Institute is about. And that's what these programs are, is to create these communities. We launched a in-person networking luncheon. We had 400 women, students and business leaders at the stadium this past spring with our featured speakers. And it's a networking luncheon where you'll see me if you come in, a group of 5 girls who are best friends. I'll say, are you all friends? And they say, yeah. I go, you can't sit together. Go sit and talk and network and meet people.
Mhm.
And they just laugh at me. I said, no, I'm going to follow you in and we're going to sit where, you don't know anyone because this is what networking is about. And I've gotten responses and thank you notes saying, thanks for making me do that. And many of our students got internships from talking to people, have connected with students from college if they were in high school. I mean, it's just, that's the whole point of it. And it's really, really special.
Talk a little bit about that feeling around, I mean, being part of any sort of launch can be super exciting and also a little bit nerve-wracking. This was a big launch for you guys. Talk us through like how you were feeling. Was there confidence mixed with self-doubt, or just take us through that?
No one's ever 100% sure, right? If you're 100% sure, you're faking it a little bit,
Yep.
right? You always have to give yourself a little wiggle room, at least. I was so fortunate to get to work with the former general manager of the stadium, Daryl Dunn, who continued to support me personally as a advisor and then mentor and friend over the years. And I'm so lucky to have found that individual as in a male role model, which has
Mhm.
been incredible in this world of sport, which can be hard sometimes, but it's there and it exists. Not to say that not all men leaders aren't that, but to find that connection from female to male can be difficult in this world, in the
Mhm.
sporting world.
Yeah.
And to have found that with Daryl was, I felt very, very fortunate. And he continued to help me navigate my career over the years. And knowing that the Institute was a passion project of his, I felt so privileged and honored to be able to be part of that launch. And with his support, along with the foundation support, the president of the foundation, Jaden Brosino, who's another incredible support, and having these people that have the confidence in what I've done and knowing that I can help steward the success of the Institute with our president, with the support of the foundation, the stadium, it was exciting. But there's always that pressure that I always put on myself, which I'm my own worst critic, where they'll say, "Oh,
Yeah.
that was amazing." I go, "Oh, I could have had more. I could have done more. I could have done this, and this." And they'll, it's let's focus on this, and try to focus on the successes and build upon those successes, and having that as a reminder. But again, having these three presidents in their own place under the Rose Bowl umbrella, having their confidence and their support in me really helps ease and allows me to enjoy the success.
Did you have to solicit feedback from them, or were you constantly given praise or coaching, whatever was needed at the time?
The praise usually comes after the success of it being a 120 out of 100 or a 12 out of 10, whatever you want to say. The praise usually comes after that. But the confidence that they've given to me over the years allows me not to need it in the instant, in that current situation. So leading up to
Mm.
it, right? They've given me that constant support and confidence to allow them to speak freely with me always leading up to it, so that if they're questioning something or reminding me of something, I'm not taking it personally. I know it's not me. I know it's them and anybody else wanting to help and wanting to make sure that I'm not alone, because you're not, unless you want to be. But knowing that you're not alone with just these remarks and knowing it's not me personally that they may be having an opinion on or something or another, and that it's the event, it's the launch, it's the program, and knowing that together we will be able to make it a success. So it's not just
Mm.
me alone, it's a full team effort in everything that we do.
So I hear two things. Your leadership, right? Everyone has to report into somebody. So your leadership sort of created this, not sort of, it sounds like they created this psychological safety for
Mm-hmm.
you. Like you didn't need the feedback necessarily or the praise, right? Everyone loves to have feedback. At least I hope they do. I know I do. You didn't need the praise all the time because it was almost like they were consistently open and honest with you about how you were doing. It was never like just one moment. It was just you guys had a really good open line of communication.
Yeah. And I'm very fortunate to have it with all three of them, to know
Mm.
that if I did it, they knew me or they've known me well enough over the years to know that I'm giving it my all and I'm giving you 110%, and that I welcome any and all criticism. And over the years, again, thanks to Daryl and Deedon, who I've known for quite some time now, it's not personal. We're all in it to get to the finish line, to get a successful end result. And it's not for lack of support when you don't get that constant, great job, you're doing good, I can't believe all you're doing. Like, I'm not someone that needs it necessarily, but there are people who do. But again, I just have that relationship. And when you have that deeper relationship of transparency and honesty, I think it allows for greater success when you're focused on the end, the finish line together, and not so worried about compliments or praise or any of that, whether or not I want it or I need it, which is not a priority in that moment or in that programming, because we're all just trying to look at the big picture and work together to get there.
It's funny you just said that, because I was like, okay, what can we give managers, new managers and veteran managers? Like, what actionable thing can we give them from this lesson here? And it sounds like, to me, you just said it is the power of the relationship and transparency. So it sounds like your leadership, they're relationship based. It's almost like how we were before we pressed record. We were like, oh, we're just chatting. It's just natural. And it sounds like, to me, it's the same thing with your leadership, right? And I don't know them, so don't let me put words in your mouth or their mouth, but it just seems like it's just sort of natural. And we're just all doing this together. And this is a relationship. And I'm going to be super transparent with you, because we're all trying to get to one common goal here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I say too when I'm working with my interns is I am very upfront, and I'll tell you how it is. I say that when I make new relationships as well. Like, I'm a girl from Boston. I will tell you how it is. I will be blunt. I am opinionated. I am not a yes person, and I don't expect others to do so with me. And that's kind of how I prep my interns when I'm working with my new interns, who are the younger generation, and just say, if you don't agree with something that I'm saying, tell me. Right? A lot of my interns are helping a lot with our social platforms. Being a bit older, I'm not so up with the social because it changes when you go to bed at night. I feel like it changes.
It sure does. It is just, I can't. I can't
keep up. So fortunately, that's always a project that my interns are so phenomenal at wrapping their heads around, because they're in it for better or worse. And I'll say, well, what about this? And I'll tell them, like, you need to tell me. Like, I have no idea the depth of social platforms right now and what's the way to kind of dig in deep. I haven't enough to get me into trouble, and I can be taught, but in it, it's tell me what I'm missing. Tell me if what I'm saying isn't going to work. And I'm here for that. And to give my college students that are working with us that empowerment and that leeway, I think has helped those that have worked with us thus far in the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's nice or refreshing, I'd imagine. Although I haven't had a Gen Zer work for me yet, but I'm sure it's refreshing for them to hear, just like, it's like you set expectations, but they're not so like rigid and right. Like, they're not like, I don't know, like out of like Harvard Business Review. These are the things you have to tell people. Like, it's just like, hey, I'm from Boston. This is how I am. And I need you. You are welcome to be the same, right? You are welcome to challenge me in your own way, but let's just have some fun while we work together. That's a great lesson for interns to get.
Yeah. If you really want me, because I'm a working mom and running around like a crazy person come the afternoon. And if you need me, shoot me a text. And then, we've got this great system with my current intern right now where she's literally sending me 6 options, and I heart my favorite post option that she creates. And it's like, I can do that on the run. I can do that on my watch. It's just, and then she'll be like, okay, what do you think about this? And I can very easily just respond via text. But I also have the confidence in her because she's given me a proven track record in this month that she's been working now, that I'm seeing that engagement. I'm seeing what she's doing and what she's recommending is working. And so I can pull back a little bit and say, like, go for it, run with it now, right? On certain things. But it's that freedom that as a manager of anyone to give your expectations. My other thing is ask once If you don't get it, just ask. Don't have to pretend like you understand. You don't have to move forward and make a mistake and then we can't take it back or whatever it is. If you don't understand, just ask, learn, teach a man to fish, right? As old as that saying is, like, let me show you if you have a question, and vice versa. Show me on social so that I'm not fully dependent on my interns who unfortunately come and go because of their semesters. Teach me, and I'm here to teach you, and ask the question.
Some of the toughest conversations we have are the ones that we have with ourselves. We can convince ourselves to believe stories that we don't even know are true. What's crazy is we allow that story to take a toll on our confidence. Have you been there before? I know that I have. We get in our heads, we beat ourselves up. Here's some tough love. Nobody's got time for that. We are high achieving women who have big career goals. We don't have time to get in our own way. And I am here to support you with my new one-on-one coaching program, Step Into Your Power and Own Your Career. My clients have told me that when we work together, I've helped them get out of their own way, regain their confidence, learn how to manage their emotion and mindset. They've told me that they've been able to get their voice back and use it with confidence. The most important thing, they've told me that we've identified the obstacle that was getting in their way. If you want to learn more about this program, scroll down in the show notes, click on the link that says Step Into Your Power and Own Your Career. You can set up time to chat with me and we can figure out if this is the right program for what you need. All right, let's get back to the episode. Okay, since you said it, with a family and you're running around like crazy and trying to manage all the things, talk about your, I don't know if anyone ever has like a work-life balance, whether you have children or not. I feel like it's more, a guest, years ago said it's more harmony, work-life harmony. And I agree with that, but talk about what your experience has been like.
Have you seen the Shonda Rhimes commencement speech from last spring by any chance?
No.
Resonated with me and helped me as a mother who's working. Mind you, I'm supposed to be part-time, but I've never worked part-time ever.
Yeah.
But her commencement speech was someone coming up to me as a mother, as who you are and what you do. How do you do it? And her answer was, I don't. If I'm failing at home, I'm succeeding in work. If I missed my daughter's violin concert, I was at the final taping for the season. If I'm failing at work, I'm succeeding at home. I went to my daughter's open house so she could show me everything she's done all year, but I missed my deadline on edits on the script. Mm-hmm. And it was that, not so much balance as I think of the justice statue, like, right?
Yeah,
if you're living in here, and I never thought I would be here, to be honest. I grew up with a stay-at-home mom who had a thriving practice in sports pathology, had kids, and she stopped because she gave it all to my brother and I. And I feel so lucky to have had that growing up. And so when I had my first kid, I thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom because I thought that was the way you needed to do it. Mm-hmm. And I go back to Daryl, and one thing I'll never forget is I went in there to just say, like, hey, after maternity, I'm not so sure. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And he said, no. He said, no, you'll be bored. You don't want to do that. Come back to me with a different offer.
And now Daryl, remind us, is mentor or boss?
Daryl was one of my bosses, mentor, friend. He was the general manager of the Rose Bowl Stadium for many, many years. Okay. And in 2015, I went to him to try to stop working, take a step back, and be a stay-at-home mom. And his answer was no. So I went home, talked to my husband, and tried to be like, okay, what do I want to focus on? What do we want to do? And with that, it was, okay, I have to let go of the things that need me in person 24/7, essentially, right? Full-time capacity. Mm-hmm. And that's when I really took a step back to really just say, I want to work with the foundation. I want to keep going in our events and keep working with our VIPs in our premium seating space, which is what I love doing, and had the relationships. Again, relationship base is so important. Mm-hmm. And I came back and he said, okay, let's do it that way. Oh, okay.
What? So you got to basically write your new job description, say what you or pick from your old job description, and make a new one. And then how did
And
you feel when he said no?
I just kind of laughed because it also made me realize when I first told him I was pregnant, I'm not a crier. And out of nowhere, I started crying because somebody said something and I started
Oh, those
crying.
hormones are crazy, huh?
They're insane. They're insane. And I just was in his office and he was just like Big Bag George, who is a really good friend of mine. And I was just crying. And he's like, "What's wrong with you? Like, you never cry." I'm like, "I know, I know." He goes, "Unless you're pregnant." And it was, "I am." And I mean, he
Oh,
knew me so well over the years.
yeah.
So just when he said no, I was like, okay, I got to figure this out because if he's telling me no, like I'm making the wrong choice. And it's not like I had to do everything he said to do. It was just kind of like, let me take a step back and think about this. It doesn't have
Mm.
to be all or nothing, especially even after COVID, right? And that's why I was able to do that. I was able to remain a consultant. So I was able to keep my flexibility to be able to say, I can give you 2 days in the office and get a nanny to be home with the kids and be here for my kids. Even now, I'm able to, again, thanks to COVID, people understand that balance now, which is
Yeah.
crazy. It took
Mhm.
COVID to understand where I kept trying to explain I'm more productive when I'm not driving here and there. And I have that culture and that balance where between calls I can go check on my kids when they get home from school, or I can be the one to pick my kid up from school and have a sitter or a friend that's able to grab them for the next event. It's navigating what works best for you and finding the way that you want to do it. And there's always a way to do it. And if it's not where you're at that given point in time in your
Mhm.
career, there's going to be a place that will support that, I feel, especially today.
Did you ever feel nervous or threatened? Right, because sports is competitive. So you go on this journey, this beautiful journey. You have a child, and then you have a boss who challenged you and said no to your being a stay-at-home mom, which I love that story. That's totally something I would do. And then you made this new job. Then reality sometimes sets in. It's like, oh wait, I'm part-time, or like you said, you're never part-time. Were you nervous that you weren't going to be able to, and this sounds really basic, but I can't think of something better to say. Were you nervous that you weren't going to be able to keep up?
Yeah, even today, you still worry. I worry about
Mhm.
everything. Who doesn't? Everyone does. Yeah, I mean, you're always worried about that, but I've never been somebody who has FOMO. I guess that's
Good.
the best thing, right?
Hmm.
We're currently trying to teach our kids, and I love seeing it in them, is you can write your own path and you don't have to do what everyone else is always doing. And you can be doing what you're doing and you can invite people in and you can let people go.
Hmm.
And I would say, I mean, you're always worried, but at the same time, I like to believe, and not to get philosophical, but your path is what you make of it, and what comes of it is how it's supposed to be. The choices you make are what bring you to where you are. Choices I've made to move from East Coast to West Coast, never really wanting to be married, never thought I would want to have a family, and getting ready to move back to Boston. And all of a sudden, I connect with who's now my husband. It's like
Hmm.
the choices you make bring you to where you are today. And you just have to kind of trust the process. And I wish I could do this all the time and not worry, but I mean, you always worry that you're not going to live up to other expectations or even your own expectations of success.
Yeah. So your solution to that is really just trusting in the process. Like, and I also hear you saying, like, I worry about everything. And it's just who I am. Like, so it's just like accepting that and not fighting it.
Trying to, yes. Just trying to
Yeah.
let
Yes.
go, right? As a type A, trying to do everything for everyone and
Mhm.
being that person where, I have my family, I have a husband who travels a lot. I'm doing everything I can with the Institute to make it successful and be there to support whatever's needed there. Caretaker for my mother-in-law who lives down the street, being involved in the kids' school so they see me and not just everyone else's mom, and just trying to control it all, but kind of be where I can when I can. So it's a lot. Again, letting go and doing what you can and showing up and being present. is the things I try to remind myself daily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had two guests on and they talked about like knowing which balls are glass and which aren't
I
when
love
it
that.
comes to, yeah, I was like, oh, I know we're talking about motherhood, but I'm stealing that for myself as well. Like, that's perfect.
That's a perfect way to prioritize, which
Mhm.
I'll probably use for my kids. Again, teaching my kids young about all the things. And
Mhm.
it's a really great reminder. And I look at videos and I see commencement speeches, like I said, and I refer to a lot of it because I'm a very visual person and I need to hear it or see it, right? It
Mhm.
kind of resonates with some of my programs. We have a program called Athletes in Schools where people listen better from professional athletes than they do from anybody else. That probably is a little bit because of what I'm saying now, but there was a professor and he has a jar that's filled with golf balls and sand and pebbles. And it's the golf balls go in first, and that's your family. And then you put in the pebbles, and that's all the important stuff like work and house and all those important things in school and education. And then goes the sand, which is all the little stuff that doesn't really matter. And it just keeps filling it. And then he fills it with a beer because there's always time for a drink with a friend. But if you do it the other way, beer drinking first or the sand first, with all that little stuff that fills up that space, you're not going to be able to focus on the pebbles or the golf balls of those priorities. So
Mm.
it's similar to your glass ball situation.
Yeah,
I always think of is it sand or is it pebbles?
right.
Right. And
Hmm.
my little guys get worried or anxious. And I try to, like I said, live in the moment, and I live a lot through my children. I try to like say, is this sand? Are we crying because it's sand? Or are we crying over something like a pebble? Like, is this important that we're upset about? Or is it because you lost video games? Like that's sand. Like TV and
Yeah.
video games is sand. So that's kind of become our thing or my thing is how important is this? Is this a 10? Is it a 1?
I love to quantify things too. Just makes it easier to like digest and tackle for
And visual,
sure.
like when you visualize, like now I could picture like the glass balls, which
Hmm.
would give me like
Hmm.
more anxiety thinking about that, to be honest. I'm like sweating thinking about glass balls in the air. But
Oh, we did. I didn't mean to do that.
no, I'm just I'm a klutz by nature as well. So it's like I would drop them all. But
Yeah.
so my equivalent of that is the sand and the pebbles.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that example. I love the thought of, well, if you start with the beer for everybody can relate to that, right? That's how you're almost filling your cup. It's not sustainable. If you have goals, and I imagine if you're listening to this podcast, right, like you have bigger goals, that's not sustainable. Yeah.
Exactly. You want to fill them
Mm,
up with the golf balls first, which is the family and your core values and who you want to be.
yeah.
And then you fill it in with all those pebbles that support that.
Is
Yeah.
there anything, as we start to wrap up, is there anything you want to talk about, and I haven't asked you the right question?
No, my biggest thing is just you can make your own path. I mean, and I know I've touched upon that a little bit, but my biggest thing is figuring out who you are and who you want to be and finding the right fit for yourself. Not because somebody thinks it's best for you and not because somebody thinks this is where you need to be.
What's interesting about that is it's so, I don't know if people have not everybody, I shouldn't generalize, but sometimes people have a hard time like silencing all the noise and figuring out like, okay, what's best for me? And knowing that what's best for you today may not be best for you 5 years from now or a year from now. Like it's okay to continuously evolve and have like different seasons, if you will.
Yeah, I struggle with that. Everyone struggles with change. It's wrapping your head around that change is good.
Mhm.
Change can and is a good thing because you either grow individually or you can grow as a team or you can grow as a partnership with your significant other. You either grow together or you grow apart, and that's okay. But it's how you embrace it and what you take from it. And I struggle with that, with change. The amount of roles I've been in at the state under the stadium umbrella since 2010 is ever changing and ever evolving. But it's from where I started to having my first child to changing that with the focus to be more on the nonprofit side. And then even being on the nonprofit side, changing that to now in the last 3 years being focused on the Institute and the community and the programming and the educational impact to have, because ultimately it's what's being asked of me, but it's also what's working for me and what I become most passionate about.
I love that what you're passionate about aligns with, this is going to sound crass, but your paycheck. It's not everyone gets to say that.
No, do what you love, right?
Yeah.
Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. At the base, right? Being basic on that bottom line. But, and let's say doing what you love also takes work, but it's fun.
It
Like
sure
I love
does.
getting to talk to individuals such as you and the panelists I get to talk to, and being part of this women's program that we build. And it's amazing to watch some of these women leaders that it is impossible to get on the calendar, right? And you watch them, and we're trying to coordinate schedules and everything. And the way that these women support one another. We were trying to record a panel, and one got held up with a root canal. And I'm on the phone with her while the rest of the panel is ready to record. She goes, I'm not going to make it. And I had to tell the panel, she can't make it. She's stuck. Look, she's sitting in the dentist chair. And then she said, go on without her. And these three women were like, we'll find another time. We'll find a time tomorrow. We will make room in our schedules. And mind you, these are like C-level executives.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
That it isn't, you can't get on the calendar for months. And they support each other, and the women supporting women, and the support that you see, it's what makes me passionate about what I get to participate in, what I get to build, and the impact that I get to see, not just amongst the female leaders, but also amongst the students.
There's no easy way to segue into rapid fire questions from that, but I'm going to do it anyway. Are you ready for rapid fire questions?
I'm never ready, but let's go for it.
You can do it. 12 questions. First thing that comes to your mind. What is your favorite sports moment?
Tom Brady going into his first game.
Oh, all right. What is something people always get wrong about you?
But I'm just telling it how it is. It's not personal.
So they take it personally when you tell it how it is.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that with people who don't know you in any situation. Okay. What is one food you wouldn't want to give up?
Pizza.
Are you a morning or night person?
Morning.
What's your favorite holiday?
Halloween. But I don't like being scared.
Oh, interesting.
I like the decorations. I have a husband who has a wig box and dresses up on like a random Tuesday. And I think it's like the dressing up and the fun of it.
Are you a dog or cat person?
Dog.
What product would you seriously stockpile if you found out they weren't going to sell it anymore?
I have no idea.
That's so funny. There's got to be one thing.
I'm like looking around my office. Oh, I know it. It'd be these mini Twizzler things. So I guess that would also be something I'm going to give up. These mini Twizzler things that are so good, and I just crave like 2 of them every day.
Just 2. I have no self control. Like I crave M&Ms all day, every day. Like it's bad.
I hide the box away a little bit, so it's like out of sight, out of mind. It takes a little bit to get to them.
Yeah. What's your favorite app?
I don't know the names of apps. I don't use a lot of apps.
Oh, that's good. So you're not on your phone a lot. No,
I try not to be. Oh, Wonderground.
Oh, what's that?
It's like the real weather.
That is not what I expected you to say.
That's one of my favorite apps. My other one is called Fetch, because I'm a saver, and you put all your receipts into it, and then you get money like on like Amazon, like just for scanning your receipts and getting points.
Oh, interesting. All right, I'm gonna look into both of those.
Okay. Those are
Okay.
like random ones.
If you had to pick Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram?
Instagram. I don't really know about the others.
Same. Who's your biggest inspiration in life?
My mother.
As a child, what did you want to become when you grew up?
I honestly, I think I always wanted to do something in sports.
Young Lauren would be very happy. Okay, last one. Finish this sentence. The future of women working in sports is
unlimited.
Yes. Fantastic. This has been so much fun. I love this conversation. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, how can they go about doing that?
Email's best.
Okay. I will link your email in the show notes for everybody. Thank you so much for your time, Lauren.
Thank you. It's been fun.
So what did you think of this episode? Do you know another woman who works or is aspiring to work in sports? Would you do me a favor and share this with them? It would mean so much if together we could support and inspire other women on their journey. And let's stay connected. I love meeting and talking to new people. Follow me on Instagram at Jahaan Blake and join the free Game of Her Own community by visiting jahanblake.com. I can't wait to meet you.